Bad react. Bad react. Bad react. Bad react. Bad react. Bad react. Hitting that play button. Hello YouTube, it's SC, a place to be chill. Trying to say back with some more fan react. So we did the top 20 worst SummerSlam matches ever. Okay, but now SummerSlam has came and go. I was trying to put this video up before SummerSlam debuted tonight, but I'm just saying, well, we still got NXT stuff to go like that. But since that SummerSlam is over and it was a disappointment to me, I noticed probably, none of those matches, probably AJ Rollins would have been on this list. But let's check out the 20 best SummerSlam matches that ever happened. So I know a lot of good SummerSlam matches that should be on this list, and maybe they'll surprise me a little bit. But let's check this thing out, shall we? All right, hitting that play button.
Last week we looked at the worst matches to ever slop onto our screens courtesy of the biggest trademark party trademark of the summer trademark. And while it felt good to purge some poison, it's only one side of the coin and some other metaphors that I also wanted to jam into this introductory blender. Despite WWE often confounding us at SummerSlam with odd booking choices, uncomfortable moments and the occasional Jon Stewart, there have been some truly joyous matches in SummerSlam's 33-year history. So sod it, let's give you 20 instead of 10. Hell, it's a summertime. You earned it. I'm Adam, hailing from parts unknown, and here are the 20 best matches in SummerSlam history. But before we start the list, what's your favourite SummerSlam match? Let us know in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. And then if you do like the video, please do hit subscribe, because we subscribe. It's the summer, so subscribe. Hashtag Hot Subscribe Summer. Number 20, Seth Rollins versus John Cena 2015. Look, right?
Actually, that was actually pretty dope.
Jon Stewart, the funny man from The Daily Show, interfering in a match for both the WWE and US Championships, one of the highest stakes matches in SummerSlam history. That does indeed blow the fat one. But first of all, oh boy, did the crowd like it through sheer overwhelming desire to see Seth Rollins succeed. And second, the match that preceded it was 20 minutes of big match, false finish, crowd-baiting glory. Arguably, Rollins' finest moment as WWE Champion. Dodgy finishes be damned, at least the crowd popped, as opposed to the confused annoyance that greeted the finish of Taker versus Lesnar in the main event. Number 19, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte 2016. If our match next weekend delivers like we expect, Sasha Banks will be one of SummerSlam's all-time MVPs. Her match against Asuka last year was match of the night. Her match against Alexa in 2017 is very underrated. And then there's this, an admittedly messy match featuring a few heart-stopping botches, but featuring Sasha and Charlotte turning in a hugely compelling spectacle via the medium of repeatedly nearly killing the boss. Wrestling shouldn't necessarily feel this dangerous, but when it does, there is an intangible electricity in the air that makes for a really compelling match. Please don't die, Sasha Banks. Number 18, Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk 2013.
Low,
one of the
it?
strongest cases that you should be very excited to see the Second City Saint again. The Best versus the Beast was a huge amount of fun. Heyman had just turned on Punk and was bringing his new/old boyfriend in to sort out his clingy ex. What followed was an enjoyably brutal match, a proper David versus Goliath story, and boy did Punk not mind getting the Pepsi whipped out of his bones. Fast-paced, action-packed with lovely moments of storytelling peppered throughout. Number 17, Christian versus Randy Orton 2011. Christian and Randall had one of the best rivalries of 2011 and a legit contender for most underrated rivalry of all time. They had like 5 straight matches in a row for the world title, and while that seems like a goddamn nightmare, each match felt different, progressing a wonderful slow burn heel turn from Captain Charisma, blowing off in this truly excellent no-holds-barred match, stuffed with callbacks and featuring a closing spot that nearly killed both men dead, especially Randy. Oofed, ya poor heat. Number 16, Triple H versus The Rock 1998.
Great
God,
match.
98 was a great year. Not only was WWE cruising with the best top face and top heel in the industry with Austin and McMahon, but they spent the year carefully crafting 2 more top stars, just in case. Step right up the flagships of DX and the Nation, Triple H and The Rock, duking it for the IC title in a ladder match at SummerSlam 98, a truly standout ladder match, by the way, not so much because it had a bunch of flippy doos in it, but because it's a match that, more than most, sold how much it would hurt to be hit with a ladder. Great matches elevate both the winner and the loser, and Exhibit A right here.
Okay.
Number 15, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar 2003, aka all of Adam's Christmas presents come at once. I love both these men, and 2003 represent the career peak for both. You could make a case that Brock peaked in the 2010s, but heck, this amateur endurance hyper-violence is my jam. That jam. Everything their WrestleMania match could and should have been if nerves and necks hadn't gotten in the way. The match takes its time getting going, but the ideal heel-face alignments of Brock and Kurt keep the crowd super invested before it builds to an admittedly overbooked, but still raucous finish, featuring an all-time great kick-out from Kurt Angle. Number 14, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, 1995. The best match on the worst SummerSlam card in history. This rematch from WrestleMania 10 was basically parachuted onto the card in a panic, just to give the fans anything to look forward to, and it's f***ing gangbusters as well. It's an early ladder match, so the spots won't pop your mind like they did the crowd watching back then, but the athleticism on display, especially from Michaels, is timeless. The moonsault from the ladder still looks good. The super kick spot is still very cool. Just a shame that the finish was slightly blown because Michaels jumped. He tried to bring the title down by jumping at it, but it didn't work, and it didn't work twice. God, look how cross he is. Number 13, The Undertaker versus Edge 2008. Hey, you guys want to see someone eat just a whole bunch of shit? Let me introduce you to this Hell in a Cell match, which sees Edge loudly proclaim to not be afraid of scary Sinclair Frightener Extraordinaire, which is up there with his worst ever decisions, including the spinner belt design and the sex thing. Edge gets in a few licks here and there, but otherwise dies 1,000 deaths in the most entertaining ways possible, up to and including getting sent to Christian hell after the match is over. Silly bollocks, but wonderfully inventive bollocks. And speaking of, number 12, CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy, 2009. The blow-off to the sleeper feud of that year, Punk versus Hardy, is a tale as old as time. Someone who's wrong but cool about it versus someone who's right but being a dick about it. WWE may not have always done right by CM Punk, World Heavyweight Champion, but they dedicate the main event of SummerSlam to his and Hardy's excellent work, and they earn it. The swanton through the announce table is an all-time great TLC spot, and other spots like the superplex onto the ladder are equally brutal. Hardy has an amazing legacy of SummerSlam ladder matches. His bout against RVD in 2001 also rules, plus one more that we'll get to in a little bit. Ooh, cheeky. Number 11, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, 1991. The Intercontinental title has an illustrious partnership with SummerSlam. The first ever SummerSlam saw the shocking dethroning of the Honky Tonk Man by the Ultimate Warrior. Rollins versus Ziggler in 2018 was great. Triple H versus The Rock, HBK, Razor, and then there's this, only the second best match for the summertime strap, Hitman and Perfect, putting on a goddamn clinic. Hugely athletic, much quicker than you remember old wrestling being, in front of a rabid crowd, with the final beautiful sharpshooter sequence cementing Hart as the best technician of his generation. Number 10, Daniel Bryan versus John Cena, 2013. Big match, big feels. In 1993, the original plan was for Hulk Hogan to put over Bret Hart, but he refused to do the job. 20 years later, we finally got that passing of the torch, although it was immediately taken away because God is dead and Vince killed him. A fast-paced, history-stuffed crowd pleaser. Obviously, the GOAT is the story here, but all the credit in the world to John Cena for not only doing the job the Hulkster wouldn't, but making Daniel Bryan look every inch his equal in the jobbing, down to the clean as a sheet ending. The post-match was predictable as hell, but the best kind of outrage swerve, providing a low to balance this match's incredible high. In 2001. Yes. How good does a match have to be to make a crappy DQ finish palatable? This good, friends. An argument could be made that this is Austin's best match to not feature a certain people's champion, and Kurt is a warrior here, kicking out of multiple stunners, dragging Austin by his ankle into the ring, into an ankle lock, his face a crimson mask, hitting his beautiful moonsault, all called by JR and Heyman. It's just perfection. The DQ finish is frustrating, yes, by design, but at least Austin really had to work to get DQ'd, and that elevates it from a wait, it's over outrage to a story of a coward unable to beat his competitor, going into a frenzy and taking the only way out that's left to him. It's joyous stuff. Number 8, Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio, 2002. I love Kurt Angle so much, you guys. So much. SummerSlam 2002 is the greatest SummerSlam of all time, don't you dare disagree, but the bar was set ludicrously high by the opening match. Angle versus the pay-per-view debuting Rey Mysterio. This match is so fast, so fun, so fluid. The two men have chemistry the likes of which most wrestlers can only dream of having. It's the textbook example of how to elevate a star in defeat. The energy of the match cannot be done justice by just reeling off a list of spots. It's a bell-to-bell must-watch. Number 7, TLC 1 2000. Oh, what a silly match. The first official tender loving care match in WWE history and a centerpiece to the greatest period of tag team wrestling that WWE's ever seen. The Dudleys, the Hardys and Edge and Christian battle in a match destined to be overlooked thanks to TLC 2 existing, but this match is a perfectly formed exercise in breathless escalation and incredibly satisfying bumps. A chaotic carousel of carnage where everyone gets a chance to shine in the most eye-watering way possible. Jeff crashes and burns. Bubba crashes and burns. Matt disappears into a pair of tables. Just brilliant stuff, loudly embraced by a very lucky capacity crowd. Number 6, Braun Strowman versus Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar 2017. Oh, what a silly match. A cube of hosses going bollock for leather in a Saturday morning cartoon that never stops, never stopping. It's a high concept match that lives up to its own Looney Tunes existence, reminding us why WWE is a batch company for not currently having Braun Strowman in it. He is a terrifying force in a match made up entirely of terrifying forces. At one point, he just beefs an announcer's chair at the Samoan Joes when he's not busy slamming Lesnar through tables. It is a huge amount of entertaining nonsense. Number 5, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, 1994. The only Meltzer 5-star rated match in SummerSlam history, and while it might not be quite that good, it's close, and that's saying something. Owen and Bret made nothing but magic when they worked together, to the point where they could even draw giant reactions out of WWE's rubbish who can escape first version of cage matches. Turns out, the key is speed, as Owen and Bret repeatedly hurl themselves at the cage door with the kind of urgency that can't help but infect the crowd with the same energy. Number 4, AJ Styles versus John Cena, 2016. 2016 SummerSlam will always have a place in my heart, as I was in the crowd for it, and man, I cannot tell you how good this match was live. It's genuinely a match so good that it pretty much destroyed its own pay-per-view. Nothing could follow it, with the explosion of joy when the right guy won, knocking us flatter than the earth might be. I'm just saying, there's some stuff about it, that's all. It's the best kind of big match where the groundwork builds to the kickouts, and the kickouts are really allowed to matter. Sheer excellence. And speaking of, number 3, Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, 1992. A match that we Brits truly hold precious. A diamond main event on a show filled with rough. Repo Man versus Crush, anyone? Anyone? But when you have a match this good in front of one of history's loudest crowds, no other match on the card mattered. Well-paced, technically seamless, much is made of Hitman's ability to walk Davey Boy through it, but Bulldog more than carries his end, and the whole thing is as crisp as a new bill, and that takes 2. It's filled with bursts of energy, power, crowd-stopping action. It's also one of Heenan's best turns on commentary. It's just wonderful stuff. Although the guys with the air horns. Number 2, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, 2002. Yeah. No other match makes the point that Shawn Michaels was a wrestling genius. His first match back after 4 years away from the ring, and it's like he never missed a day, crafting a seamless, violent, creative, and bloody masterpiece with his best friend turned bitter enemy, Triple H. Nearly half an hour in length, but never feeling indulgent, which is more than could be said for some of the matches in this feud. It is superb. Everyone was happy to see Shawn. Everyone was happy to see that he could go better than ever. Everyone hated Triple H. The two pretty much nailed every spot in the match that could have been filled with shortcuts to protect Michaels, but no shortcuts were taken. We won't forget you. And number 1, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar 2014. Lol. Alright, shut up. Listen, this isn't the greatest match in SummerSlam history to anyone, probably, except for me. But I wrote this bastard. It's my rules. I love this match so much. It is so shocking. It is so surprising. It is so funny. It's essentially the beginning of John Cena's departure to the mid-card, where from 2015 onwards, he puts in one of the greatest wrestling runs of all time. And watching Big Match John get drubbed from bell to bell, every single equally unbelievable moment just made me laugh and clap until my hands were sore when I watched it. And it's hard to describe it properly, but when this happened, the year this happened, Suplex City was not a thing. Cena was still the guy. This should not have happened, but it did. And it's one of those those desperately few times where the phrase "anything can happen in the WWE" actually rings true. I love this match. I'm gonna go watch it again. Look at Cena fly. Whee! Look at him die. And that's our list. What's your favorite SummerSlam match of all time? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share this video around if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to Parts Unknown for more silly wrestling content. Jam that jam.
That was dope. That was dope. I did like seeing Cena get beat. At that time, I mean, now you're just thinking like Super Cena every day, but at that time when Cena was still Super Cena, and then Rollins came in there and tore that ass up, I remember that, yo. Post your comments down below. What's your favorite SummerSlam match? I got another classic coming out for you guys later on tonight from 2017, that Fatal 4-Way. Also, I didn't do it next week, but I'm still trying to bring up classics. Hit the like button if you guys enjoyed my reaction, the subscribe button for more fan reacts right here on NC Studios. Once again, it's NC, the place to be. Show Mr. Andy, and the fan react is out.